Hello, welcome to this short video introducing the book of Acts. Acts is actually the second document written by Luke in the New Testament, the first being his Gospel, which describes Jesus' life and ministry. In the book of Acts, Luke describes what happens after Jesus ascended into heaven. In fact, the first chapter describes Jesus' ascension. And it gives this lovely progression of events right the way through to the gospel being proclaimed by Paul in the imperial city of Rome. So there's a movement from Jerusalem to Rome throughout the book. Perhaps the best way of understanding the structure of Acts is to recognise that there are three Pentecostal events in the book, and it's a helpful way of seeing the developments in focus. The first Pentecost is clearly the pouring out of the Spirit on the Jews in Jerusalem at Pentecost. And the result is Peter's up there on his feet preaching the gospel, and at the end of the day 3,000 people are members of the church. An amazing start. That's the first Pentecost, but a few chapters later everyone is surprised by the Spirit of God being poured out in the same way but on the Gentiles, and that's in chapter 10. And that leads to the whole process of the inclusion of the Gentiles, what that means, what terms they come into the church on, and how the whole thing should be processed and handled. And that leads to the expansion of the gospel throughout the Eastern Mediterranean, the planting of many churches. And then there is a third Pentecostal coming of the Spirit at Ephesus. 12 people are filled with the Spirit, and the result is that a fantastic church planting initiative goes on, and the whole of Western Turkey, we would say that now, hear the word of God. It's a fantastic development that takes place. And so in the book of Acts there is this sort of succession of critical path events that take place. There's Jesus' ascension, there's the gift of the Spirit, there's the proclamation of the gospel. In fact, it's proclaimed at lots of different times in different contexts, and it's very important to study all that. And then there's the formation of church with that commitment to the apostles' teaching, to fellowship, to the breaking of bread, to prayer, and incredible generosity. And then there is the inclusion of the Gentiles, and then the focus moves on towards the mission of the church's mission through Paul to all humanity. And in the book of Acts we see how the Spirit worked in the beginning, how he worked in the past, and there's all these crucial principles and ways of operating, and we see what he does. We see how he works in the past, and we can understand how he is working in the world today.